it's Emmy from Jerry's Diorama, and as promised, today I wanted to talk to you guys about using the Frida glass paint outliners. As I've previously said in my last video, they do come in 3 different sizes, and this is the liter, the 120 milliliter, and then the 70 milliliter. They also come in 6 different colors. We have black, white, and gray, which are available in the liter sizes, and then we have 3 metallic colors, which is red, green, and a metallic black. Now these are only available in the 2 smaller sizes, but with these smaller bottles, they do come with an applicator tip already ready to go. Now all outliners are going to be typically dry within 2 hours. There are some things that can affect that though. The weather for one, if it's really hot outside, your outliner might dry a little faster. If it's really cold, it might dry a little slower. Also, the metallics are, they do dry a little slower as well. Not so much that you're really going to notice, but they do. Also, if your outliner is going to be really, really thick, it's going to take longer to cure. If it's really, really thin and delicate and you use the Faux line bottles, your outliner is probably going to be dry even maybe within an hour. Now, as I said in my last video as well, if you get the 1 liter bottle, you are going to need some kind of an applicator. I do recommend the Faux line expressions or just the Faux line bottles. These are for really nice delicate lines, and the Faux expressions give you a thinner line, as well as it can also give you a nice thick line if that's what you're looking for. So other than the actual outliner and possibly an application bottle, the other things you'll need to do a typical outline process is a surface to work on. Now glass is the most forgiving surface. If you do need to scrape the whole thing off and start from the beginning again, you can do that. If you do work on wood, it does need to be sealed. If you work on plexiglass, you just might want to test the corner with some solvent just to make sure that your solvent isn't going to eat through it. I have had some plexiglass react badly. Just to be on the safe side, test it before you start. You can also work on porcelain, which is fantastic. If you have like these tiles right here were 16 cents at Home Depot. You can paint them, you can make some coasters, or you can do an entire mosaic with them. It's really cool. Now, the one thing that is fantastic with using plexiglass or glass is when you take your drawing, you can just stick it right underneath and you are ready to trace. With those surfaces that aren't transparent, like if you're working on a mirror or a wood panel, you are going to need to transfer it down. I would maybe suggest either a projector, or if you have a Ceral transfer carbon paper, that's really great too. Now last but not least, because I don't have the most steady hand in the whole wide world, plus I also might have an air bubble come through my bottle and pop out some extra outliner, I typically use razor blades as well, just to clean up my line after it completely cures, which I'll show you real quick. So let's get started. So once your outliner bottle is full, you are pretty much ready to outline. Now me, I've already cut off the tip there, but when you have a brand new bottle, you know, there's no hole there. It hasn't been cut, so you're going to want to take a razor and you're going to want to actually chop it straight down. Now with these nozzles, you can kind of see where the air bubble of the nozzle kind of starts meeting plastic. Now if you want a very, very fine line, you want to cut up towards the end there. Now if you want a thicker line, you want to cut further back. So with this, when you do cut, you want to cut straight down, and that's probably going to go flying. But now I have a very, very small opening here. So once your bottle is actually full and the tip of it's cut, you kind of want to make sure you knock the air bubbles back to the back of your bottle, because as you're squeezing out the outliner, if you hit an air bubble, it's going to make your outliner explode and it's going to ruin your line. So you can either leave it upside down as you store it, or you can take a paper towel and just tap it, and you're knocking all those air bubbles back to the back of the bottle. That's probably about enough. Now, you also kind of want to start a bit of a line to make sure that your bottle's flowing. Me, I've had this in here for a while, so obviously it was a little clogged, but now we're good to go, right? Now you want to keep this paper towel nearby, because as you're outlining, you don't want to get an accumulation on the tip of the nozzle of your bottle. You want to be able to kind of wipe it off. Now before you actually start outlining your image, you want to prepare your glass surface. I have my fingerprints and the oils from my hands all over this. So you really need to clean your surface and give it something really nice and clean to adhere to. And take a paper towel and some rubbing alcohol and just clean the surface. So I'm going to start up here in the corner, and I want to squeeze just a little bit out before I even touch my surface. Now once it starts going, the trick is to not drag your bottle onto your surface, but to just let, oop, my glass moved. Yep, see, that's what happens. Okay, so now that I have my glass back in place, I stopped my line. That's a problem. You can see that it kind of went a bit wonky, but I don't want to touch that. The reason why, if I try and clean that off with my razor blade, I'm going to smear it and get it way worse looking than it is right now. Just let it dry for a bit before you try and rub it off there. Now, to get your line going again, you do want to touch where that line ended and then start squeezing out the paint again, or outliner, I'm sorry. And then continue your line. Now you'll figure out what feels right for you, but for me, I end up getting these little bubbles because I'm squeezing more out than I'm moving my hand. If you do want to like smooth out your line, you can take the nozzle without squeezing anything and just drag it across your line. Not digging into it, just dragging it just across the top, just to kind of smooth out that line a little bit. Now, you can see I've got a lot of paint on the tip of my the nozzle there, so I want to wipe it off. Because if I go to make another line, that's going to affect how the paint comes out. With the trick to doing a grid or anywhere where your lines are overlapping, you want to keep your outliner wet. Wet on wet is the best way to work with the outliner. If you don't get to it before it dries just a little bit, you'll notice that your line, as you crisscross, it'll sit on top of these other lines, and then it won't actually adhere to your surface, and that's where your paint is going to bleed through to other sections. Yep. Pay attention to where you're sticking your hand, because you will stick it right into your outliner. That's awesome. Now when you do that, or if you do that, hopefully you avoid that problem, you're going to want to fix the line that you just messed up, but leave that because it's going to be easier to clean up when it's dry. Okay, so now that my grid is completely done and I'm done tracing that, what I'm going to do is take off the actual drawing and then replace it with just a regular piece of paper. So I can actually see now that I really have a lot of bumps and things that I need to clean up. So I'm going to just let this completely dry, and then once it's done, I will come back and show you how to clean up the lines. Okay, so now that our outliner is completely dry, we're going to want to clean up all these little bumps and squiggles where the outliner was messed up before. So the easiest way to do that is with a razor blade. Now I personally like these little razor blade knives. You can also use these flat razor blades as well. These are, in my opinion, great for these straight lines because they really are easy to kind of scrape, as well as if I decided that I didn't want this entire box, it's so easy to just scrape it right off and you're good to go. But if you have curved lines, or if you have like these little corners right here where this is far too wide to trim any of the inside parts of this, this is a lot easier to use rather than this guy. So to clean off these things, it's easy. You just kind of cut away the part that you don't want, and then if you take the tip of your razor blade, you can kind of scrape it away, and then you have a nice straight line. Now same thing with using one of these flat razors. You just kind of cut off the part that you don't want and then scrape it away. Okay, so now I am all trimmed up, all my lines are nice and neat, and now I'm ready to drop in all the different colors in my little spots here. Now this design right here is specifically for my color swatches that I'm making. I want to see what all of my colors will look like before I actually go to use them in my artwork, but you can go with something a little bit more fun and funky. But again, all you have to do is draw your outliner and then use your razor blade to clean up the edges, and then you're ready to go. With this piece, I actually ended up covering all of these different outliner bits here, and then going in with a Q-tip dipped in my lacquer thinner and then cleaning it off to bring out my outliner again. Now, it does kind of stain the outliner, just a little bit, but that is another way of using it that isn't a traditional way. These two pieces were only using the outliner on glass. Now, you can use this on other surfaces. One example is a wood panel. So what I'm going to actually do is turn this into a mixed media. So now I'm going to take some Yes paste and cover the whole thing and then glue down just some aluminum foil. Now, what that is hopefully going to do is create an entire metal surface that won't go anywhere, of course, and I will still have my outliner raised up, and then I'm gonna carefully push in all those little spots. So, wish me luck. And now this is ready for paint. I'm gonna have to be rather careful though when I do drop in my colors. They might kind of go everywhere, but we'll find out what it's going to do. And then of course there's a non-traditional way of using the outliner. I have just a kind of a mesh wire right here that I've actually had just lying around my studio. What I'm going to do is actually take this mesh, lay it down, and then take a palette knife and then my big liter jar of outliner, actually drag it through. I'll do a lot on this side and then a little over here, that way you can see the difference. So when you pick it up, so yeah, you actually get a really cool design in your outliner right there, and then if you do it really sparse, you almost get a dot kind of old school print almost effect to it. Now I would say you could probably use any kind of a stencil that you want as well to kind of incorporate the outliner in a different sort of way into your work. Now this obviously won't hold any of your glass paint together, but if you had this maybe in white and then you covered the whole thing in a different color paint and then kind of wiped off some of it with some of your solvent and maybe a rag, it could be a really cool effect. And that was the outliner for Frida glass paint. If you guys have any questions about this product and what it could possibly do, please leave a comment in the section below, and if I need to test anything out, I will absolutely be happy to do that for you. Of course, thank you for watching my video and enjoy your day. Adios!